Hello, everybody, and welcome to Advertising Week Briefings 5 Things. This month, we're going to be diving into the travel and tourism industry. We've got some amazing guests for you today, but before I jump into that, there's just a few people I want to thank. My name's James. I'm the Senior Project Manager with Advertising Week Briefings 5 Things. And first, I want to thank our partner, Advertising Week APAC. And it's not too late to register for AW 2020. You've got until October 31st to register for free, and you can get some key insights from some A-grade celebrities like Jason Derulo and Kevin Hart, and also some industry leaders like Jules Lund, who's the founder of Tribe. So anyone who signed up today will get a free link to register sent to their inbox. And also I want to thank PauseFest as well, our other partner. And they're launching in 2021 from the 1st of March through to the 12th. And tickets are on sale now, so you can head to their website, which is on the link just there. Also, I want to thank our amazing team. So I'm just going to embarrass them and bring them on screen for a minute. Nat, who's our speakers liaison and overall support. Henry, who's our marketer. Gadi, who isn't with us at the moment, but she's our digital and social media coordinator with Advertising Week APAC. And also the newest addition to our team, Diego, our designer extraordinaire. You've been such a valuable addition to this team, and welcome, Diego. And thank you all, because all the work you put in behind the scenes is what makes this event possible. So you guys are amazing, and thank you so much. And also, before we get started, I just want to introduce our presenter. For those who don't know him, his name's Lucio Rebello, and he was voted by his peers as one of the top 100 most influential online marketers by Marketing Today. He also is a lecturer at RMIT of digital marketing and teaches AI at RMIT Future Skills, and has worked with some global brands like Unilever and Mercedes-Benz, and is currently working as a strategic marketing consultant with Lucio AI, working with brands like BMW and AMP. So welcome, Lucio. I can't wait for the session today. Let's kick it off.
Thanks, man. You kicking ass, James. You're doing this. You're like, man, hopefully Channel 7, Channel 9 doesn't see you here, because I'm going to look you for the project, man. So thank you. James is the project manager. As he said, he makes this whole thing work. So good on you, man. Thank you very much. So hello, you. Welcome to Advertising Week Briefings, 5 things in travel and tourism. In 2019, tourism was Australia's 4th largest exporting industry, contributing $6 billion to the economy. More than 600,000 Australians are directly employed by tourism. In New Zealand, tourism is, or it was, the largest export, representing over 17 billion annually. Travel, tourism, and events has been one, if not the most impacted category during COVID, So today I gathered a panel with 3 experts to teach us everything about travel and tourism. But before I kick off and invite this amazing panel today, I want to play a short video to you. So be ready, because she's an amazing woman. Her name is Kath, and she's the founder of the Kindness Factory. And she has an amazing story, and her background is beyond imagination. And Kath is also the fastest talker I ever met in my life. I thought I was a really fast talker. No, man, you gotta tell you, Kath beats us all. So she recorded a special message, and I'd like to play with you. So keep up, it's a 1 minute, and I'll be back in a tick, okay? Thank you.
Hey guys, my name's Kath Koshin. I'm the founder of Kindness Factory. Now you might be aware that World Kindness Day is right around the corner on Friday the 13th of November. That's a particularly special day for me because I founded Kindness Factory in 2015 on that day in memory of my late partner. I did that after also overcoming some pretty serious life hurdles, like breaking my back on 2 separate occasions and having to teach myself how to walk again when everyone told me that I basically wouldn't. What I realized, and the one thing that really stood out to me throughout those struggles and challenges and overcoming them, was that there was one thing that really stood out to me, and that was human kindness, the ability for someone to help another person when they might be in need or even when they're not, and what that can do for someone's esteem and the greater good around us as well. Now, as I said, World Kindness Day is right around the corner, and we need your help. We're going for 20,000 acts in 2020, and this is how you can become involved. The first things first, get your diary out, mark the date in your diary. Friday, 30th of November, 2020. It'll be a big day, and we can't wait to see how many acts are logged throughout the world. Second thing, go out and do something kind for someone. It doesn't have to be big. It could be something as simple as buying someone a coffee, reconnecting with an old friend on the phone, such as COVID times, or even smiling at a stranger. You have no idea what those things can do for another person. Third, go on to kindnessfactory.com and log your act. We can't wait to see how many stream in and how creative everyone gets with this challenge. As a next step, maybe you can go out and spread this word with your family and friends. The more acts, the better, because I think we can all agree that 2020 has been a really tough time for all of us, and the world could do with a little bit more kindness at this point in time. Thank you so much for your support. We can't wait to see all these acts roll in, and as I said, let's get some kindness back in the world. Cheers.
Isn't she wonderful? So next week, World Kindness Day, and all you need to do is to have an act of kindness to someone. That's all she's asking. And she has a website, and you can go there and register your act of kindness. That's all you need to do. Just a one little act of kindness. But anyway, today we're here to talk about travel and tourism with Advertising Week Briefings, 5 things. Remember all of you that this session's been live on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and we're also recording this for Advertising Week. So I would like to welcome my 3 guests today. Andrew, who is the GM of Tourism for Tourism New Zealand. Felicia, who is the CEO of Victoria Tourism Council. And Susanna Bishop, CXO at Federation Square. What a wonderful panel I have here today, all right? So welcome, Felicia, welcome, Andrew, welcome, Susanna. I would like to give us a short introduction about you. So perhaps start with you, Susanna.
Thank you, Lucio. I'm the Chief Experience Officer for Fed Square. I'm also the Vice Chair of the Meetings and Events Australia. Very passionate about this industry, and in particular passionate about the experience at Fed Square and celebrating multiculturalism and helping the recovery of now all of those businesses as we get to the new normal of COVID-19.
Thank you, Susanna. Andrew, do you want to give us a short intro about you, if there's such a thing, because your career is so extensive and so much experience there, man?
Oh, that's very kind. Thank you. Kia ora all. It's great to be here. Thank you for the invitation. Really looking forward to today to talk through my understanding and experience and things that I've learned, not just in tourism and travel, but obviously prior to that, and which hopefully leaves myself and our organisation well armed to navigate the future. So my name is Andrew Waddell. I'm the General Manager for Australia for Tourism New Zealand, based in Sydney. I lead a very capable team in Australia, and our role is to maximise the contribution of Australian visitors into New Zealand, and that's about enriching New Zealand and the lives of New Zealanders. Long career in marketing across brands such as Stella Artois in the UK, Red Bull in the UK, South Africa, and more recently Australia, and a proud Kiwi. So I'm very fortunate to be able to work for and on behalf of New Zealand. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew. Pleasure to have you here, man. Then we don't gonna have time to do the whole Red Bull gives you wings, so we're gonna do another session on there. And now welcoming Felicia. Felicia must be one of the busiest people on the business right now. So Felicia, a short intro about you, please.
Oh, thanks, Lucio. Yeah, it's been a busy time. I'm the Chief Executive of the Victoria Tourism Industry Council right now, but I've had over 2 decades and 2 decades of pleasure, I have to say, working in what is a fabulous industry in the world of tourism. I've worked in 3 different states across Victoria, New South Wales, and also spent some time heading up the tourism body down at Tourism Tasmania, which was a wonderful experience, and then came back to Melbourne back in late 2013. I have to say the last 12 months, 2020 has just been a year to hit Control-Alt-Delete and forget it ever happened, because it has been an incredibly tough time for our industry. But hopefully we're coming out the backside of this now, and events like this really help us to focus on what we need to do to get recovery happening, but also the importance of collaboration to make sure that our industry recovers to its fullest.
Yeah, you're right, Felicia. So 2 decades of pleasure. What happens to the pleasure now? Let's talk about start with you, kicking off with you. Before we talk about the impact of COVID, can you help me and can you help the audience to understand the tourism, travel, and events industry? What is the impact of this industry in the economy of Australia, Felicia?
Yeah, Lucio, it's been devastating to say the least. You know, our industry prior to all of this happening, around the end of 2019, let's say, the industry in Australia as tourism and events was worth about $150 billion to the economy of our country. If we fast forward to the current point in time, and I have to say, I think some of these projections are probably a bit optimistic because they were done before Melbourne went into lockdown 2.0, and also I think there's a number of things that have happened that have complicated our recovery. But you know, the projection is that we're going to end up at about half of where we were, so back down to around the $75 billion mark. And it was really funny, I was reflecting on that. That's the figure that we started at when Australia set the targets. We set our 2020 stretch targets probably 7-8 years ago now that we started down that journey. We were sitting at 75 billion at that time, and our goal was to get to 140 billion, double by 2020. So we actually surpassed that by 2019, and now we're going to lose all this incredible ground. But the saddest part of it is, as well, we employ near on 1 million people directly and indirectly in our sector across the country. 600,000 of those people are directly employed in our tourism world, and we're going to lose about 25% of those people from our family. So the intellectual capital, that brain drain of people that have left our industry at a time when we need people to be part of our recovery, it's actually going to be devastating for us to try and really set that aggressive road to recovery if we don't have the people in our industry to help supply the demand, or satisfy the demand, I should say.
That's pretty full on, isn't it? Like, I imagine, and Andrew, I want to bring you to the conversation now. Just segue on what Felicia was sharing with us. I mean, tourism in New Zealand is the largest export for some time now. You know, it's, I mean, I guess has taken dairy as the largest export in the whole country for some time now. I guess since 2017. Is this right?
Yes, so, and it sort of I was just reflecting on this and linking back to my own career. When I first left university, I was one of my first roles was at New Zealand Dairy Board, and has now become Fonterra, and that was #1 export at the time. And a few years ago, tourism overtook that. So it actually represents about 21% of total GDP. About 1 in 10 jobs, but in particular places and locations around New Zealand, that can be a lot higher. So, you know, to go from a growing industry and continuing to grow from an economic perspective, it also has, you know, significant impact across, you know, society, culture, and so forth. So the rebuild and recovery of that is going to is critical. And really important from an economic perspective, but ultimately just from a well-being perspective of individuals and of communities. So we're looking forward to playing a role in that recovery in the future.
And Andrew, how do you even do that? Like, how do you keep the daunting task of keeping global travelers engaged in a product that's currently unavailable? How do you even do it?
Yeah, so Tourism New Zealand is actually the oldest tourism or national tourism board globally. So it's, you know, been operating for over 100 years. So if you think about the last 100 years, what it's had to navigate, although COVID is new for it, and the situation pandemic we find ourselves in at the moment is new, governments and Tourism New Zealand has navigated significant moments through history, you know, obviously Great Depression and world wars and so forth. So those, hopefully some of those learnings are retained in the knowledge bank as time's gone on. But ultimately, we've got to look at things with completely fresh eyes and really understand what the individual markets and countries are going through in our consumer in context and what they're operating in. For Tourism New Zealand, we have a long-standing brand, 100% Pure New Zealand, and that's 21 years this year. So, and again, that has had to evolve over time relative to the consumer needs and what they're seeking in a travel destination. Holiday as one reason for travel it means a lot to people. It's you know, part of who they are. It represents their exploration, their who they want to become, and so forth. So it's an important part, and we have to understand what they're going through in their own market and look to appeal to that in the future. Using 100% Pure New Zealand and continuing that brand story to bring that to life for people when they can travel and travel in the future. The travel purchase is a long consideration, so it can be over a number of months. From the UK and the US, it can be 12 to 18 month planning cycle. So although they can't travel now, we need to be keeping the brand and the destination alive and enriched through the time, and so that when they can travel and are willing and are able to, they want to do and travel to New Zealand, which is a long journey.
So Andrew, for the marketers on this watching us right now, your role is to market New Zealand, right? And what is the main thing to sell or to market when you are marketing New Zealand?
Yeah, I mean, very simply, we just try and bring to life the truth of our people in place, and the values of that we hold strong. So Manaakitanga, which is our generosity and hosting and our spirit, Kaitiaki, which relates to the guardianship of people in place, and then whānau, which is very much a family and that feeling of family. So you combine those, and we try and bring to life the idea that you arrive as a visitor and leave as whānau or family. So really bringing to life that desirability of the experience that people will have, and that desirability to travel and experience themselves. So very much building brand, and then converting that to that immediate drive to be able to travel in the future. So we're fortunate to have a really strong brand in that sense, 100% pure New Zealand, and many stories to tell as a part of that.
And is this part of your new campaign? Can I play this? Can I bring? Because I absolutely love that thing. Shall we play? And can you comment a little bit on that?
Oh, yeah, just to sort of set up, I think it's Plan Z. So it was presented by 100% Pure New Zealand, and the idea was around how to gamify a country when people couldn't travel. So how could you bring it to life through a virtual or digital experience? And the idea is to show that embrace of people in place when you can't travel, and we did that through gaming or a video game walkthrough. So here's a quick trailer to view.
Welcome to a realm unlike any other realm, where enchanting adventures and mythical hospitality await. Oh hey there. Where you arrive a traveler and leave as whānau.
Really great graphics. Almost weird.
That's lovely, man. That's so good. I love it. And that's a whole little vignettes and different segments from this. I know I went to YouTube and I watched it all. And one more fun than another. So
oh, thank you.
Good. That's good.
Yeah, one of the key things out of it was we knew a lot of people are faced with COVID and dealing with that on a day-to-day. We didn't want to highlight that consumer in COVID. We wanted to highlight consumer in context. So it was really about, there was a lot more, the idea of universal truth of play was a key part of it, the desirability of travel and exploration, the growth of video games during this time. So it was representing those trends and those insights to bring that to life. And yeah, super successful, super engaging and entertaining campaign. And as a result, the result of the storytelling with it, it's been very successful for us. So yeah, thanks very much for sharing.
Oh, that's lovely, man. We like to share good work, and then we have more videos coming soon. We're going to show this amazing video from Federation Square, the great work there. Susanna, you should join us in this conversation right now. Be quiet there, very politely, just waiting. And I know I have very smart stuff that you guys have done at Federation Square, and I have a video to show later on today. We will show there. But I actually wanted to know from you, Susanna, from a very localized perspective, what is so Susanna, as a CXO for Federation Square, it's a pretty big role, it's a pretty big responsibility over there. What is the impact of the COVID on the industry? And I'd like to know, I would expand from travel and tourism, and also talk about events here, just incorporate the three areas. So what's the impact?
Yeah, sure, Lucio. I think you have to be living in a cave not to know that COVID has had a mass impact all across the globe. But in Australia, COVID-19 impact has been greater than the bushfire, which was already devastating in the beginning of the year. I've recently came across Tourism and Transport Forum Australia reported a downturn of 40% from January to June in comparison to 2019, and a loss of 1.8 million of visitors. And Fed Square is probably where you start your destination in Melbourne and Victoria. We are the most visited venue for overnight stayers in Melbourne. So you can imagine that creates an incredible domino effect to small operators and the whole supply system. And, let's not forget, as you mentioned, events have been absolutely decimated and they're still not back. And there may be a while, there's still a lot of uncertainty about events returning to their new normal. And if you look at just the business travel segment, which also generates business events, that sector alone, which doesn't even include your major events and your festivals, they are such a high yielding sector in the Victoria visitor economy. In 2019, business events actually injected 12.85 billion of economic benefit just to Victoria, and that impacts much greater than just the business. Is the education that it brings, is the tourism that those business delegates end up going to do, and it also brings a lot of benefit to the regional areas. There's an estimated 475 million in contribution to the visitor economy that comes just from business events alone, and a lot of regional jobs that come to that. So I think the industry has faced 100% loss of revenue during this year, and it's been absolutely sad to see. And what concerns me the most is a point that Felicia made. It's the talent that we are potentially now missing to other industries and even to other locations. It was very sad to see grand final go to Queensland, and we will hate to see other fantastic events leaving our states.
Well, it's a good competition going on there. I know. For us in Victoria, we are mostly in Victoria. I think there's we're not secret that has impact, as I said at the beginning. That's no secret that has impacted. The industry has been one of the most impacted. And I guess, I would like to ask you, Andrew, will things be business as usual once we return to normality, or has the strategy to market tourism and travel and events changed forever? What is the recovery path here?
Yeah, so I think a couple of things in that. Firstly, on the recovery path, what you've seen from Tourism New Zealand and Tourism Australia is the remit to move into domestic, and it's important for both markets to rebuild the trust in travel and to rejuvenate the most significant part of both tourism sectors in both countries, so about 60%. So that's the first and foremost. And what's great about that is that the communication to that it taps into everything about being a Kiwi or an Australian to travel locally and support locally, as well as your love of your country and exploring something new. So I think that's really rich territory for both brands and both organisations to move into. And then it also allows the sector, both from supplier through to product, through to state or city, state and marketing and national marketing organisations to work together to rebuild and be part of that recovery plan. So I think the roadmap to recovery is positive and clear. A lot of bumps in the road to navigate it before we get there. From a marketing perspective, what's really interesting is I think travel is around, taps into those emotional benefits of seeing friends and family and holiday and exploration and so forth. And you do overcome a lot of obstacles to do that, whether that be drive time or flights and so forth. So those are sort of rational challenges. So I think the balance between emotional drivers and rational reasons as well as rational obstacles to overcome is going to be interesting to play out, particularly around that trust in travel and how comfortable people are to travel during these times of COVID. What's interesting for New Zealand and Australia is they're relatively aligned, give or take a little bit, about their view of COVID and the situation they've been through. And there's close connection between two countries to best understand that. I think one of the challenges longer term will be other markets that have had a higher rates of COVID and the implications of that across UK and US, etc., and the implications that could have when those visitors come to Australia and New Zealand. So yeah, we're positive around the recovery plan. I think if we go back to the normal, we won't be true to the challenge that we face. So I think there's an opportunity to bring through freshness, innovation, change some of those things that we've been talking about for some time, ensure that it's a holistic ecosystem of visitor connecting with the community and enriching those communities as a part of that. And so I think, we're in a special opportunity, as I said, at the moment to explore that and understand that and make some important changes.
So Felicia, what will market tourism look like in the next few years? Just on the segue from what Andrew was saying before.
Yeah, I think things are going to change, and hopefully what we'll see are changes that do last and changes for the better. I do want to just kind of pivot back a minute to something Andrew talked about in that domestic-led recovery. One of the dilemmas, obviously, that we have here in Australia is that our borders haven't opened the way we thought they would. We had some great plans back earlier in the year when all of this first started, March, April, May, we were talking about a domestic-led recovery. What we've seen now, however, is that many of the state borders have remained shut. Obviously, we have a very unique circumstance that's occurring here in Victoria. And as a consequence, that recovery is going to be much more challenging, and the projections of how fast we might actually come out of this using that domestic audience is definitely been stymied by the fact that, we're just not seeing that movement of people across borders here in Australia the way we thought we would. In terms of what the tourism marketing is going to look like, it's interesting because I just love the fact, I said the other day to someone that, the driving holiday is back, and recovery will really very much be led. It'll be driven by the drive holiday. And that's something that I find quite exciting, because I think for a long time, Australia as a nation hasn't explored enough of its own backyard. And we have had that great propensity to travel overseas. We're great lovers of traveling overseas, and we're not worried about the long haul. We just get on a plane and go because that's what we do. Interesting, I heard a stat the other day. Victorians are amongst the highest spenders of overseas holidays, something like $65 million that we spend going off overseas. So if we can get some of that captured back here, and we can get Victorians traveling in their own state, and indeed all of Australia traveling domestically, that will be fantastic. But how we appeal to those audiences is going to have to be quite different. And it's interesting because, again, we're kind of going back to the future. I'm hearing a lot of talk around itinerary planning. We haven't talked about itinerary planning for ages when it came to domestic marketing. That was something we did offshore for people who didn't know about, our great country. But the reality is we're now talking about doing that here for Australians. And I think that's a great thing, because it helps us to spur the imagination of people living in our country about the beauty of what we have right here on our doorstep. But the interesting thing we're seeing, the trend is supposedly that, we might go 2 or 3 weeks overseas. We're not going to take 2 or 3 week holidays here domestically, but we are extending, and we're taking 5 to 7 day holidays. That seems to be the push. But that means people will travel further. So that 2-hour halo around Melbourne that has been so popular for so long, all of a sudden now, if I'm going to spend 5 nights, I'm going to travel further. So we're seeing huge pickup in people traveling out to the east part of Gippsland, traveling to Western Victoria, out to the back end of the Great Ocean Road instead of just that halfway mark, traveling up along the Murray. So they're going to those farther flung destinations. But how we present those products, how we put forward the compelling experiences to help build those itineraries that will keep people here for 5 to 7 days. And I think we've left it to the imagination of the consumer for a little bit bit too long. And this is an opportunity now for us to get back into the mix and help to create the reasons to travel, the motivation to travel. And storytelling is also going to become a really big part of this. And New Zealand, you guys have, you kind of wrote the book on all of this storytelling stuff. Yes. But I think we're all going to have to learn how to become authors of our new story, because that's how we spur the imagination of people, is through storytelling. And that's going to be, I think, a little bit of a shift in terms of how we're going to have to change the way we talk to people who live right here in Australia. We're used to doing this stuff with people overseas, but we now have to reinvent that language and reinvent those points of connection to inspire people right here in our own country.
Yeah, there's so much to be seen in this country, isn't it? Actually, going there in terms of internal traveling, Susanna, I'd like to bring you, and then I'll bring back to Andrew to another question regarding skills. But Susanna, just on the top and tail from what we just heard, do you think, can we expect some of the iconic Australian events like Formula One, tennis, comedy festival, like those things that promote internal traveling, can we expect this to be happening back into 2021?
Yeah, I definitely think we can. It will start returning slowly around the country, major events, but with modified rules, obviously with social distancing, reduced numbers of spectators, and most importantly with a COVID safe plan. I don't think there's any other way around it. Major events in Victoria, I experienced something they've never had to in the past, which is actually have a plan for potentially, no spectators, which I think now may be different with the way we're tracking, but that's something you've never, had to imagine doing, doing something with no spectators when your revenue models and your sponsorship model, everything turns around that necessity to have a large as a crowd as possible. If you think of the recent events we've had, you look at what tennis was doing and what F1 was doing. They had the sport captured, but they were increasing the festival elements of their events so that they could bring as much of an audience, capture new audiences. And now this is completely changing the game once again. And at the same time, we can't, in the event space, you can't afford not to be a player. Your brand will lose momentum. Some of those events have taken years to have the reputation and brands that they have. So I think, yes, we will see them coming back. We'll see a lot of difficulties with smaller events like, let's say, the comedy festival and others that were subsidized and, always kind of had their business model breaking even. But with difficulty, it will take a couple of years to go back to the level that we were before.
Susanna, you've been doing an amazing work with Federation Square and your team, of course, along this hard time in bringing some of the basics of marketing back to what you're doing. I want to show the audience a video that I have from Federation Square. Can I play now? Do you want to say anything before I play?
Yeah, I've got to say, I'm actually quite happy with this panel because I've heard about imagination, gamification, and storytelling, and those are all the elements that we're putting together into Fed Square. So we're rebranding. We've got a very exciting program scheduled for next year that's really about having your own experience and interaction and playing with the environment. So I feel more excited about what we're doing after hearing Felicia and Andrew, I've got to say.
So let's see it. Let's see Federation Square work. Okay, 1, 2, 3, go. Boom, anything but square. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, listen, we're really excited. We had a big plan for this year that obviously we had to put on hold. So there's a lot in store, and with the new brand coming up in January, we're also creating ways for augmented reality to bring the stories of the past of Fed Square, so people can interact and do things at their own time. So it's less about bringing big crowds for concerts or an event, and it's more about allowing you to come through any time that suits you and still have a great experience, interact with the culture institutions, the food and beverage, and the entertainment.
Awesome. Let me just bring everybody back here. That's amazing. Susanna, thank you very much. That's a wonderful work, and it's really good to see the work you're doing in Federation Square. For those who don't know, it's just not Federation Square, it's the whole precinct over there. And I know that you guys work in a lot of collaboration across the whole precinct. I want to flip this conversation slightly now, and because we have a lot of our audience, marketing students coming from different universities, and I wanted to go back and just talk a little bit about skills in marketing and skills on our industry. So, Andrew, you had a very diverse background, from marketing director at Red Bull to tourism. What do you see as the unique, or maybe some of the exclusive features of tourist marketing? What exists just in this category?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I've been fortunate to be able to work in with some great brands and some in the predominantly in the beverage category, but also across a couple of markets, which has been fantastic. I think so. My background was core FMCG, working in dairy and milk and cheese and butter and so forth, across into beer and then into sort of energy drinks. So, I mean, what's at the core of that is consumer and understanding those consumer insights and being able to convert those insights into strategy and into action. So that would, that's the consistent piece, and there's nothing like FMCG brand school to really understand consumer and product benefits, both rational and emotional. Where I see the sort of links between beverage and those great global brands through to where I am now and travel is around experience. So what was in energy drinks and beer, there was a lot around bringing to life that brand experience to sell the product. So that was an on-premise through bars and clubs or events, as well as sport and those sorts of things, which really highlighted the truth of the product benefit. And Red Bull's situation, Red Bull gives you wings to people and ideas, and beer was really about social and engaged social experience and so forth. What's interesting from travel is the experience is the product. So and the experience only lives, and the product only lives through people attending and taking part in it. So that's probably the core difference. And then with that is just a world of unknowns and so many factors from a consumer journey perspective and what their experience is like. So yeah, a core of product and brand understanding, product benefits, as I said, through to really understanding how to bring that to life in an experience. And I think, for me, working for Tourism New Zealand with a passion for New Zealand and having traveled around my own country a lot when I was at university and so forth, gave me that, I guess now, that product knowledge of what's available, and then trying to bring that through and telling great stories to bring that to life is how I've gone about it, and why I sort of feel like it's sort of fitting together now. So yeah, that's probably an insight into my beverage to tourism perspective.
Yeah, man. And in your case, particularly in your case, to be the GM of marketing for New Zealand, you gotta have a passion for Queenstown, right?
Yeah. So yeah. So
it doesn't work if you don't have it.
Well, we've got some.
I'm sorry.
Great locations.
That's definitely one of my favorite cities in the world, Queenstown, and also Melbourne, and also Sydney. Definitely national, international, but it helps to have a great passion for the place you are from, isn't it?
Absolutely. So I actually went to university in Dunedin, University of Otago, which is about 2 to 3 hours from Queenstown. So I never thought my time as university student going across to ski midweek and dodging classes would give me stories to tell about why you should go to Queenstown, but sort of all fits together now.
Yeah, the Cabri Land. All right, so we're gonna do now a live cross with our partners marketing magazine, and I have a special guest who is Sergio Brodsky, who's gonna be asking a question to your panel. So Sergio, with you, man.
Hello, Lucio and Advertising Week 5 Things. For those that don't know me, I am Sergio Brodsky, the executive producer of Futurecast, where we talk about all things for a better future. And since you have a panel of travel and tourism experts, I have a very good question for them. Something that does not involve predictions at all, but it's really about the use of technology. How are you using technology today to transform the future that you want tomorrow? This is my question. This is what I want to hear from you. And if you would like, please join Futurecast, and I invite you to listen to our podcasts, read our articles, and watch our video interviews. I'm sure that many answers and insights and hopefully some foresight to your questions will be found there. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Sergio. So Sergio, the presenter and producer of Futurecast, a podcast on foresight from Marketing Magazine, asked us the question, the tech today to enable the future of tomorrow. Felicia, do you want to take that first?
Oh, I get to go first.
Oh, yeah, you.
I think what's been really interesting is watching how we've used technology right now through this crisis to stay connected. And I think as industry, and it was interesting, Andrew, watching the gamification that you've done for NZ and keeping your world connected to all things tourism in New Zealand. And if I think about even here, across Victoria, I've watched a lot of our operators, particularly our cultural institutions, our zoos and sanctuaries, and how they've used technology. Susanna, you've done quite a lot as well at Fed Square in really working and using technology to stay connected. We've had 6 months of really, virtually no one traveling anywhere. And there was a huge risk of out of sight, out of mind. But I've been really encouraged and inspired by how products have used technology to find ways to engage customers, to keep them connected deeply, watching the feeding in the zoos, putting on shows within some of our, our sanctuaries around the state. Cultural institutions have done amazing work. I stay connected regularly to what NGV is doing. There's weekly stuff, almost daily stuff that you can look at in terms of how they're keeping their audiences across the cultural offering within NGV. So I've been, as I said, inspired and overjoyed to see how our industry has used technology to stay connected. It'll be interesting how we use it beyond here. I think what we will see is some of that stuff will stay even after we go back to face-to-face. I think we're going to continue to use technology as a way to do virtual events. It'll be blended events into the future. We'll have face-to-face for sure, but we're not going to lose that ability to bring people from overseas into our environments through mechanisms like we're using right now. And I think also, too, our tourism products, once they open the doors to all of our customers again, they're going to continue to use those digital channels that they've been using up to now to connect to consumers. So there has been a huge benefit, I think, that's come out of this disaster, if we look at the silver lining, in that we have found new ways to connect with our customers. We've found new ways to engage them with our products. And also, I think we've made amazing friends around the world. Like, we're all talking to people all over the place now in these formats like this that was impossible 6 months ago, 8 months ago, because we just didn't think about using platforms like we're currently using. For whatever reason, there was a fear factor involved, but I think we see now that it works and it's worked well. So hopefully those will be things that will carry on beyond this current phase of what we're living in.
Great, thank you, Felicia. Susanna, what's the beauty thing behind you? It's a beautiful dog behind you.
That's my co-worker. She's a bit lazy, but she doesn't. Ginger. Yeah,
Ginger.
she doesn't.
Oh,
doesn't contribute much, but you may hear her snoring at some stage. But Lucia, I've got to, can I tell you a quick story? In 2008, when we were going through the financial crisis, and we were at a conference here in Australia, and everybody was saying, when all of the businesses started pulling their travel money out for conferences, everybody started saying, well, technology is going to replace conferences and everybody's going to meet virtually. And it's only 2020 that the technology was there in 2008, but it's only really in 2020 that people really adopted, and it's even been used at aged care for grandmothers to see the grandchildren. So technology is really important, but adoption, it's even more important. I think that whatever we're creating now, it's also how are we all going to be able to adopt it. At Fed Square, we transitioned into a virtual square to keep our brand alive in about a month. But we knew we wanted to have a virtual square a couple of years before that. We just didn't know how to do it. So necessity creates the opportunity.
So, Andrew, how do you see the technology today enabling the future, or building up the future, perhaps as an enriching experience, as a dual thing? Like, where do you see that happening?
So, look, we're in, as I said a little bit earlier, we're all in the experience game, and experiences require people to take part in that experience to really feel the full benefit of it. So the inconvenient truth at the moment is that that's extremely difficult to deliver. So we talk a lot about bringing that brand to life and keeping it alive and building that over the long term. I think what technology does, and I think it has been a jolt and there's been an accelerator on it. It will never replace that experience, but it can definitely enrich, enhance, and enable. So travel and tourism is a lot around understanding. So building research and planning is going to be parts of digital, and technology enables that. Absolutely. The sort of enablement is building that anticipation. Like to move Fed Square into a virtual, it won't replace going there, but it will absolutely showcase what's possible and build the anticipation of being able to go there in the future. Same as gamifying New Zealand won't replace the true open world experience, which is playing NZ by actually traveling there. And I think the enablement, what we've seen at Jolt is how can we make that easier? How can we make that booking more convenient? How can we make it of that moment? So I think ultimately that enablement through all parts of the consumer journey is there. And what I think the last point is really is closing that loop. So for that experience to be true and improve, you need a lot of feedback. So how ultimately can technology enable that to get that feedback, adjust your product and make it even more fit for purpose than what it was there? So yeah, we're really excited about what technology, the role it plays, but knowing that it's got to be built on a pure experience, in our case 100% pure New Zealand experience, and how that can come to life.
Awesome, perfect. We have about 7 minutes before we need to wrap up this session today. There are a few little things I wanted to go. We have a few questions for the audience. We have to give you some time to say, to ask the audience anything you want. One question, I'm gonna flip this again in terms of skills and future. I lecture to over 500 students every semester. Across digital marketing, artificial intelligence. In this case, I'm doing just RMIT. And one of the things I have brilliant young professionals asking me, and also mid-level professionals in marketing, it's the same question all over the time, is if someone wants to pursue a career in marketing, particularly in travel, tourism, and events, what do you suggest? It's better to be a generalist, or it's better to be a specialist? What is your opinion? So, Felicia, do you want to take the floor to begin with? Specialist versus generalist. What is your advice on that?
I'm probably going to draw on my own experience, because if I had stayed in my specialist world, I'd be working for a newspaper or a television station. Because I always thought I wanted to be a journalist. But I guess what I've found and especially working in our industry, I do think that somewhat of a generalist is a good thing, because there are so many different aspects to the world of tourism and travel that having that ability to sort of scan across so many different aspects, I think creates enormous opportunity for people. I mean, I've been in this industry for 25 years, but I've done so many different things across the spectrum of what I've done. I've gotten involved in events, I've done marketing, I've done corporate communications. I was fortunate enough to be in Sydney during the Olympics. I've gone into policy and advocacy and corporate comms. So all of that is just, to me, it's an example of you can be with one sector but have so many different jobs within that sector. And I think that's what we talk about. We were talking a little bit about the brain drain, and I think that's something we undersell about our industry, is that there is such tremendous opportunity. I've done things in my lifetime that I would never have done if I stayed in the pigeonhole of probably where I thought I wanted to be in the early years of my life. This is an industry that affords the people that work within it just tremendous opportunity, not only from what we do in our work, but just the places we get to see, the things we get to do, the people that we get to meet. And I don't think you can replace that. I don't know another career that I'd rather have, because, as I said, I've done things that I've never been able to do and would have never done in any other sector. So I think we tend to undersell tourism and travel in such an enormous way, because the opportunities that are afforded to people in our sector are enormous. But I think if we talk about it more on that generalist scale and talk about the different streams of activity, you can have so many different careers within the tourism sector. And that's why I think generalist skills, to me anyway, personally, I have found far more valuable.
Susanna, you want to give your opinion on that?
Yeah, I'm with. I'm the same. I think that, and again, Lucio, you are quite familiar with the artificial intelligence and how that's going to change the future of work. But I think, if anything, the future work will need a lot of flexibility and transferable skills. We don't know the jobs of tomorrow and how things will move. So I think, you can have a passion that gives you a specialist topic to focus on, but remaining quite open with the scope of your work and interest can certainly be useful over the period of a career.
Thank you, Susanna. Andrew, what's your take on that?
I'm going to say both. Someone had to. Specialist in consumer insight, what, why, how. That's absolutely transferable from if that's a specialist skill. How that then engages and interacts with brands would be the specialist skills I would take, and then generalist across industry, category, and application of those two aspects. So I think the agility that's required, to use a buzzword, requires generalist skills to be able to apply a common set to different challenges and problem solve and be creative. So I wouldn't be too concerned about getting down into specialisms around digital or advertising or media and so forth, but to understand and have that curiosity to explore what they mean and how you can best use them to achieve your brand and consumer goals. If you take that through to a C-suite perspective and what you'll be able to bring to the boardroom table, it's absolutely championing the consumer story, or the consumer at the heart, and then the brand story that goes with that. Probably say return on investment as well would be the other specialist skill, making sure that you can deliver and talk to the results that you'll be able to bring through in your work.
Thank you very much, the panel. I should know that I should unmute. I've been doing this for over a year now. There's a little button called mute and unmute. I should know by now which button to click, but I'm still going. I'm still learning. So, okay. Thank you very much. What we're going to do now is we have 6 minutes before we wrap up today. We're going to open the floor for a few questions, all right? So, starting with the first one. what can we expect from a potential trans-Tasman bubble between Australia and New Zealand? Angel, directly to you, man. How are we going to work this out?
Hey, extremely exciting. We'd like it to happen sooner rather than later, but there's a few things to navigate in that at the moment. I think the opportunity is between both markets. I think it works out to be about 11 million trips that won't happen internationally. So them keeping them in the hotspot of, or sorry, wrong use of hotspot, keeping them in the ecosystem of Australia, New Zealand travel zone and bubble is the end goal. There is momentum there. Both governments are committed to it, but there's some important milestones for sure. Australia has to wants to get a lot of Australians stranded overseas back home. They want to open up domestic first and foremost, which we agreed is a critical part of that recovery plan. And from New Zealand perspective, just had an election, they're forming a new government, so there's a couple of things to work through in that sense, and then just the feasibility of it. So there's a couple of cases, or sorry, some scenarios which they're running through at the moment. Would like it to happen as soon as possible, but it's potentially around that Christmas period or soon after, which we can see that coming through. But regardless of when it is, we'll be ready, and ultimately bringing to life and building that trust in travel and bringing to life that opportunity and what we love about travel, and the experiences that we have to bring.
Thanks, Andrew. Another question I have here is, do you think the recent cricket agreement with the MCG will spark new hope in the events industry? Alicia, I think this is down there. And you have a few compliments here. We have a few compliments coming from different people to all of you guys, so you know. There is saying how amazing you guys have been and how informative. There's a lot of comments around there. So Felicia, no, Alicia, I'm sorry, Felicia, this is directly to you, Ali. Do you want to give your feedback on that?
Sure, Lucia. Look, we're hopeful that it is the beginning of some great things to come. Obviously, we had a huge disappointment hearing the other day that our marvelous Melbourne Cup is going to be played without, or run without spectators, I should say, which was just devastating for us and for our events sector. But then to hear that the MCG has signed an agreement for the next 3 years to host the Boxing Day test, which is terrific. But even more so, it was really great to hear a cap of 25,000 people. So that's 25% capacity of the G, which is fantastic. If that can be the beginning, the first step of, of course, after that, we've got the Australian Open Tennis. We roll into things like Grand Prix, such a big, major international hallmark event calendar that we have over those first 3 months of the year. So starting to see spectators back into those events is absolutely crucial. These events will look very different. They're going to happen in Melbourne. We know they'll happen in Melbourne, but they will look different. And we're going to have to behave differently. So there'll be lots of questions around. I know there's a lot of work going into how they bring the international players over. So it's not so much the spectators, but the actual participants in these events that are coming from overseas. So there's a lot of work to be done around what do we do around the quarantining when they get there? How does that work? So it's a massive, huge exercise that government is working through with those events. I would like to say, though, when you step down, and Susanna, you and I talk a lot about this, and you've mentioned about business events, we tend to forget because Melbourne has this amazing calendar of hallmark international events, but there's a plethora of events that sit below that, which are around our cultural events, our festivals around the city, our regional events, our business events. That's where we have no certainty. That's where we need to understand what is the plan for how we get that segment of the event industry reanimated. How do we make sure that we can have people at business events again? It's not impossible. It is happening in other states. Sadly, it's not yet happening in Victoria, but we are hopeful that we're going to be, on a journey very soon of looking at how we reactivate our broader events industry. But in the short term, we're thrilled to bits that we're going to have up to 25,000 people at the G on the Boxing Day test. So, yeah, fingers crossed.
Thank you. Thank you, Felicia. Susanna, I'd like to drop this to you. Josh is asking, with the hit that the industry has taken throughout the past year, would you say that tourism, travel, and events is in a position to take on less experienced intern grads?
Well, so this is a really interesting question because the tourism and event industry already suffers a skill shortage, which I'm sure Felicia can comment on. So it's already a challenge for us to fill the industry with the talent required. So with the Meetings and Events Australia, we undertake research and training to equip younger and graduates and students to be able to come into the industry. We already have a shortage, so the short answer is yes. We need great people. We need great training, and we need to grow that experience to support an industry that was rapidly growing until we were impacted by COVID-19.
Awesome, perfect. We do have a lot of other questions, which is really great, but I unfortunately don't have time to show them all because I'd like to wrap this up. It's been an hour and you're probably hungry. We're all hungry. It's lunchtime here today. Some of you might be watching these at night time, but it's lunchtime. But before I would like, before we close today, we are closing. I would like to invite our guests for their last thoughts. And one ask to our audience. So now it's just to wrap this up along this room. And if you have anything to ask our audience live, and also the audience going to be watching this later. So starting with you, Andrew, please.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm going to go back to one of the very first messages, which is around kindness. And that's be kind to each other, support each other. I think we're all faced with significant challenges at the moment, and how we go about them is going to be critical to navigating it. We have a saying, "He waka eka noa," which is we're all in this together, and I think it's going to be easier to be all in it together if we are kind. And so sign up for Kindness Day, get involved, that's my final sign off. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Susanna?
I'm going to be greedy. I'm going to ask for two things. One is go to fedsquare.com, scroll down and join a database so that you can receive all sorts of fascinating updates on what's coming up. And the second one is go to the Meetings and Events Australia, become a member, help support the industry.
Thank you. And I'll bring Felicia here. Hold on. That's too many buttons to press on this thing here. So Felicia, with you, the wrap up and then let's go to the audience.
Yeah, I'm going to make a comment. I just saw something come up from someone who made a comment in the audience, and it made me think about there's a lot of students, as you noted, Lucio, in the beginning on the line, on the call, whichever we're calling the session. I just want to encourage everyone to think about a career in travel and tourism. We've talked a lot about this today. It's come from three very different angles of people from three very different walks of life. But I think there's one thing that I want you to take away is that a career in travel and tourism is incredibly rewarding. And think about all the different, we use lawyers, we use risk analyzers, we use logistics people, we use social media people, corporate communications. We use a raft of talent and skills in our sector. So don't just think about tourism as travel. Think about it as something you can do with the skills, whatever you decide you want to study. I think that's where we actually do sell ourselves short on that one, because we are an industry that uses a broad and enormous amount of skills across our sector. So all I'm asking is for all those people right now that are out there studying media or communications or social media or whatever you're studying, we use your skills in our industry. So just put us on the shopping list of things you'd like to consider as a career.
Thank you very much.
Add to that if what's great about that is the way to research is to travel and experience things, and that's part of your training. So, be first to jump in that car or first to fly when it's easy to, and that's part of your training to your towards your career in the future. So yeah, here.
Mm-hmm. Here.
And Andrew, just tell me if I got this right. Iwaka Ekanoa?
Yes. Hiwaka Ekanoa. Okay. We're all in this together.
Amazing.
Waka is a vessel or a boat. You could think of it like that. So we're all in the waka together.
Waka.
Nice.
That's a beautiful message for us to close up today with our Advertising Week briefings, 5 things in travel and tourism. If we were in a physical place, full of people would be clapping their hands to the 3 of you. Thank you very much. This is amazing. We still can do it.
Hey, well done, everyone.
Oh, I've got another guest coming in. I clapped. I brought another dog.
That is brilliant.
So hopefully they get us on the project tonight. How the dog incorporates here. So I'll bring you guys. Please just stay around with me here, Andrew, Felicia, and Susanna. I'm just gonna remove you from the stream, but please don't hang up. Just stay there for a second. So this is the end of today of our Advertising Week briefings, 5 things in travel and tourism. That's been a fascinating conversation with Andrew, Felicia, and Susanna. They've been an amazing guests and so rich content here. Remembering that we do Advertising Week briefings, 5 things every month, and next one is sports, and I hope to have your participation here. Before I wrap up today, I would like to bring the team together once more. I'd like to bring James, Diego, Henry, Nat, who's supposed to be here. She might have popped for a while. Oh, that's she's here. And Gaudi. This is the amazing team that makes this thing happen. I have James, our project manager, Diego, who is our designer, Harry is our marketing, Nat, who is the all-rounder, doing a lot of stuff, and Gaudi, who helps us with the promotion for Advertising Week. So without you guys, this event could not be possible. So thank you very much. This is the end of today. Bye-bye. I'll see you next one.